Imagine being forced to wake up super early, spending a third of your day sitting in a room listening to someone yap about something you don't even give a shit about. It's like prison, but even prison changed their ways on how they operate over the years. If your school is like my high school, then you're pretty much playing a game that's designed to put you at a disadvantage. So, here's my plan on how you can thrive in this environment. School really forces this idea of grades being the most mattering thing. Like, they force you to read this book, and they force you to take this test on said book, which they shame you for if you fail the test. And they're like, why aren't our students learning anything? And so you have to change this mindset of, oh, I have to study this to get good grades, into, oh, I have to learn and understand how this works. Because if you study for good grades, then you won't learn anything, because you would just force yourself to remember shit. Let's say you study for good grades. So situation 1, you do well on the test, so that's a win. But you didn't learn anything, so that's a lose. Win-lose situation. But situation 2, you don't do well on the test, so that's a lose. And you also didn't learn anything, so that's a lose-lose situation. But if you focused on learning and understanding how the topics in the book works, then situation 1, you don't do well on the test, fair enough, that's a lose. But you learn something, so that's a win. Or situation 2, you do well on the test, so that's a win. And you also learned something, so win-win situation. And so the only time you win the most is when you focus on learning. And so in school, the two most important things are basically getting good grades and learning something. Remember, you aren't there to study, you are there to learn. And when you are learning, the grades will happen automatically. And so when you focus on learning, you kind of target these both. And there's also human connections, but that's for later. And so the next thing is effort. Now, the outcome of actually getting good grades and learning and understanding stuff will be tied to how much effort you put into it, obviously. And so when you're trying to learn, the range of that is 20 minutes to 2 hours. And so obviously, how much you learn will increase depending on how longer you sit there and read. And so you get to pick. Are you willing to sit there for like 20 minutes or 30 minutes or an hour? You get to choose. With effort also comes optimization. What do I mean? How can you make learning and understanding stuff more efficient? And so now is when you can apply those study techniques, study habits, study with me, those things. But remember, don't focus on memorizing, focus on learning. The moment the study techniques feature something about memorizing, then that's pretty much trash, because all you're doing is forcing yourself to remember stuff when you should be focusing on understanding the topics more efficiently. So now, people or human connections, whatever the fuck. Now you might ask, why is this important? You need to actually learn how to interact with these people, because the moment you graduate, the interactions you'll have with other people will decrease drastically, because everyone will be focused on their own thing, and you would be too. And so best increase the chance of connecting with someone, because you won't get much interaction in the future. So basically, how you deal with this is to be the one to reach out now. Don't worry about how they'll react. If they get angry, they get creeped out, or they get happy, that's their problem, not yours. Because we're not really begging for social interactions or their attention in this if we're just genuinely interested on how they're doing, right? If you can't find interest in anyone, then you just have to wait until that someone comes. The main point is, if you saw yourself sitting alone and feeling lonely, wouldn't you want to reach out to them? And so to summarize, focus on learning and understanding stuff instead of studying and memorizing. Remember, win-win-win. The only time you win is if you focus on learning and understanding stuff. You are there to learn, not to study. If you focus on learning and understanding, then the grades will happen automatically. The next thing is effort. This will depend on you. You get to pick. How much effort will you actually be okay to put in? Would you sit there and read for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, or an hour? It's up to you. And then with effort also comes optimization. How much more efficient can you make learning and understanding stuff? You can try it and search for study techniques, study habits, but remember to focus on learning instead of memorizing. So third is people. You have to actually learn how to interact with these people, because in the future, Everyone will be focused on their own thing, and you would be too. So best know how to learn how to connect to someone, because you won't get much interaction in the future. And so how I deal with this is to be the one to reach out. So if they get angry, they get creeped out, or they get sad that you've reached out to them, then it's not really your problem, because you're just genuinely interested. And so the main point of this is that if you saw yourself feeling alone, sitting alone, feeling lonely, wouldn't you want to reach out to them? And then that's it. So do me a favor and live.